Hello, welcome to the sixth podcast of Soulful Thoughts from Ireland. Each week I am weaving new soul stories with the times we are currently living in and this grand pilgrimage of life and death that we are all on. Today, the Sídhe, the Irish fairy folk. Throughout my life, I have encountered the fairy folk of other dimensional realities. In New Zealand, in the United States, in Ireland, they are alive everywhere, and so very close to us if we only have the eyes of consciousness to see. A couple of summers ago, when I first arrived in upstate New York, I was staying by a river, and every morning I would walk down to a large flat rock where I would greet the spirits of the water, the trees, the mountains, do my qigong, and sit in quiet contemplation. It was a beautiful morning ritual that allowed me to sink deeper and deeper into communion with the land. Every Sunday, I would undertake a special ritual of joining the feminine and masculine energies. And as part of that ritual, I would also make an offering to the elemental beings and resident spirits, bringing them fruit and nuts and a special yummy hibiscus drink. One morning, as I was sitting on my rock, there they were, the fairy people, slowly revealing themselves to me from across the riverbank. I saw one of them, then two, then three, four, and then they showed me their house and the opening in the rock, which was the portal or entryway in for those with eyes to see. They had, with my daily visits and offerings, come to trust me. I came with purity of motive. That is, I was coming to honor all forms of life and wanting nothing in return. I was also consistent in my honoring. It was not merely a flash of human desire to see what would happen. Sometimes our desires actually hinder our communion with others, especially when they are too earnest, or if we are trying to claim some feeling of worthiness out of an encounter. The fairy folk see right through us humans, and therefore do not let us see them if anything is amiss. But if you do make contact, and you continue to bring forth your innocent yet knowing heart of your child nature, then they are generous in their revealings and can often exhibit their desire to help us. They are also very concerned about the fate of humanity. This concern was one of the conversations I had with these fairy folk. And they said that if they treated one another how we humans treat one another, then they would no longer exist. They said the lack of respect and love for one another would simply bring them into their demise. There was great sadness and deep anguish about humanity and the way we are living. It touched me deeply to see their concern. When I first arrived here in Ireland and was walking about, I did not feel the immediate connection with the elemental and fairy beings, which I normally do here. Just as the people were feeling the harbinger of death and hiding in their homes due to the virus, so it seemed the elemental beings were doing the same. I came across a dead seal a dead fox, and 2 large dead seabirds, all in one outing. It did not feel good. Having spent more time here, I am also realizing how Ireland has changed. Tourism has exploded, thankfully drawing the rural areas out of poverty. But it has also placed every stone circle, village, sacred site, and mountain walk on the well-accessed GPS. Tourism has increased by 56% in the last 5 years, and especially by the high-spending Americans. So the local tourist report tells me. Before, the Irish air was thick with magic. And it is still here. But now you need to go looking for it. John O'Donoghue, the great Irish poet and mystic, revealed that one of his greatest fears was the way that the Irish government was relentlessly nurturing and pursuing commercial tourism. He lamented that a tourist voyeurism can do much damage. And so our selfie culture of visit, click, leave strips not only our connection to the land, the elemental beings, and the fairy folk, but it also stops them, the fairy folk, from being able to communicate with us. Just as our souls are filled with wonder when we expand beyond our range of physical seeing and hearing, so their souls find joy in communing with others beyond themselves. It is the nature of creation, an ever-expanding reality, right there, right here. The kingdom, the queendom of God is near. And that nearness depends on one thing: our ability to sit still and be open. Not to gain anything, but simply to allow the portal of communion to reveal itself to us. This is the way of the true pilgrim traveler. Yet for many, even the expectation of pilgrimage is to see as many sacred sites as possible in your 1 week. We have forgotten the art of returning to the same place over and over to deepen our communion. A gift the virus may well be enforcing upon us is a reminder of the sacredness right where we are, if we care to sit, open, and commune. Earlier this month, on May 1st, it was Beltane, a sacred celebration to ensure the fertility of the land and a rite honoring our sexual nature and the union of the feminine and masculine. I have spoken of this in one of my previous podcasts. I was planning a Beltane ritual for folks online, and I wanted to collect some hawthorn blossoms and leaves for the altar. The hawthorn tree is the tree of Beltane. It is known to bloom on May 1st and is intimately connected with the fairy realm. It is understood to be a portal to these fairy folk, the Shay. and those in the know of the old ways will tell you that one must never take a sprig of the hawthorn without asking permission of the fairy folk themselves. There are a number of hawthorn trees just down the road, and 2 right by a child's cemetery close by. I had been watching and waiting for the blossoms to come, but alas, nothing. So, on the day of the ritual, I decided to collect a small branch of the hawthorn leaves. Now, as I know the fairies, the Sídhe, like an offering, I gathered some flowers and took them down to one of the trees. Still no blossoms on any of them. I placed the offering and asked if I may take a small sprig. I did not get any big resounding yes, but I did feel that it was okay. So I gently snipped a very small branch. On my way back, passing the numerous hawthorn trees, I could barely believe my eyes. One of them had blossoms on, and I know for a fact that it did not have any on my way down. Gently touching the blossoms in sweet wonder, I distinctly heard that the Sídhe were pleased with my offering, and here were the blossoms that I wanted. They communicated that it is not very often now that they receive offerings, and so they were actually quite excited at being able to gift me in return. I felt so deeply grateful and snipped some blossoms, making sure to leave some, and I returned for the ritual. A few days later, I took some of the flowers from my Beltane altar and took them back to the hawthorn tree in thanksgiving. Even today, as I write this, 11 days later, it is still the only hawthorn tree with blossoms, and with a lot more now. Going out on the land and making simple heart offerings gives me such joy and a feeling of connection with the land. I did actually go out for a Beltane ritual on my own here on the land, and on the way was gifted with 2 pheasant feathers, and was told they were gifts for my Beltane altar. Pheasant represents fertility and sexuality, the exact meaning and nature of Beltane. During the ritual, while out there on the land, I also saw the very rare Irish hare. In fact, 4 of them. And one was in hot pursuit of a female. She, however, was off and running and cleverly outmaneuvered her pursuer, leaving him with his nose twitching in the air trying to locate her. The hare, of course, is also about the fertility of life. What a blessed time with the fairy folk, the elemental beings, and the magic of the animals revealing themselves. Life is returning. The other day, I opened my book, Meditations with Teresa of Avila, and this is what I wrote back in 2004. Yet it seems so appropriate right now. As we awaken from our cocoon and find our wings, let us not be in too big a hurry to use them. Our only urgent need is to listen for the voice of the beloved to direct us. And if we sometimes have to wait to hear it, then so be it. Let us not fret over our feelings of uncertainty. We waste too much time and energy in this way. And then we create such a cacophony in our head that we are unable to hear the beloved's voice when she does talk to us. Rather, let us use this time wisely to replenish our energy. And let us be gentle with ourselves in the process. Our wings are always there and always will be. There is no beginning and no end in this wondrous game of love. And while we are replenishing and being gentle with ourselves, perhaps we may sit still long enough to hear or see beyond the veils of our normal senses. Perhaps we may start making small offerings in our garden or a special place close by, reigniting a deeper relationship and communion with the land. And perhaps one day, when you least expect it, one of the fairy folk may come sliding down the portal of communication and show you another realm of love and magic. It is alive and well there. Let us open and participate and make it alive and well here. Well, folks, I take my leave for this week, and I wish you many blessings of good health, communion with the land, steadfastness of spirit. Watch for future podcasts coming when I will speak on the Tuatha Dé Danann, the ancient peoples of Ireland. A refined and magical people who live deep within the land here and deep within my heart. Until then, Slán.